And joining us on the broadcast this minute is BJP leader Subramanian Swamy from New Delhi. Let me begin by asking you, sir, on this entire developing story. You have made it public on social media that Rajapaksa called and spoke to you after being sworn in as Prime Minister. Tell us exactly what transpired in that conversation.
Well, I'm sure you're aware that he was my guest in India, and I also had him address a public meeting in Delhi, and also arranged a dinner for some well-placed people in the society. And I've known him for years, so it was a very brief conversation. I congratulated him, and he said he was grateful for the support I've given him throughout these years, especially when he was fighting the LTTE and the wonderful trip he had to Delhi. And then I said that I would come one of these days to Sri Lanka to clear the pending issues that are there, which is the issues that deal with the resettlement of Tamils who are uprooted by the LTTE, some more federalism in the constitution, etc. These are demands, and I said I would like to raise it with you. So he said very welcome, and I would in fact like you to help us to the extent given your experience. So I have lots of Sri Lankan Tamil friends also, and therefore I thought that this Tamil Sinhalese divide should end, especially after Rajapaksa in his speech said that Indians are like my relatives and Chinese are my friends. So we should not compare our relations with India with that of China. So with that thing in mind and his statement in Sri Lanka after his return from India, that he would, if he gets power, re-examine the 99-year agreement with China to administer the Hambantota port. Hambantota port, the Chinese can bring their ships and so on, but the manning of the harbour would be done by only Sri Lankans, which was the position till he was president. And after he left, the Sri Sena government gave it to management by the Chinese personnel, which was objected to very strongly by India. So I think good Indian relations would take place, and the ambience on the talk was very good.
Right, and the political crisis in Sri Lanka is deepening with each passing hour. There's an all-out slugfest in a way between Ranil Wickremesinghe and Sri Sena. How exactly, according to you, should India view these developments?
Stay out of the whole thing. We have messed it up in the past by taking sides, and we took the wrong side. And this has happened during the UPA period also. And I think the best thing for us to do is leave it to the players in Sri Lanka to play it the way they see. Of course, if somebody asks me my personal opinion, I'll say Mr. Rajapaksa has got the stuff in him to keep that country together and keep the sovereignty of Sri Lanka intact.
And there have been many reports talking about the internal strife in the government over the past few weeks. Did you have an inkling that such a development would come about and it would reach this level, especially since you invited Rajapaksa to India last month and took him around?
No. The only thing was where he was asking me about my legal expertise on whether the ban for there was the Sri Sena government had introduced a constitutional amendment saying nobody can be president for more than 2 terms. And he said, if our legal experts talk to you, would you give an opinion whether this is a sustainable amendment or not? That's the maximum we talked. But the question of his coming and then becoming Prime Minister, this was not discussed.
And Ranil Wickremesinghe has today proclaimed that he is still the Prime Minister of the country. Reports also saying that he will challenge his sacking in the courts. Does he, according to you, have a case?
No, it's not at all. The Constitution is very clear that he is appointed by the President and till the pleasure of the President. So there's no definition of what is the pleasure. So he can, he can go to the court. Nobody can stop him from that. But he has no chance. And certainly he will not be able to walk into the Prime Minister's office because the police and all have already in place because they will take their orders from the President.
And also, what does this political crisis in Sri Lanka mean for India and its neighbours in the South Asian region?
Rajapaksa is a man who, if he promises something, he can deliver. And he's a very determined man. And when something is good for the country, he doesn't care for the costs. He demonstrated that on the LTT matter. So many presidents before him negotiated with the LTT, listened to the Norwegians and all our kinds of interlocutors from Europe. But this man took a decision that once his own minister was assassinated by the LTT, Kadiragama, who's a Tamil actually. He was foreign minister and he was assassinated in Colombo. I think he took a decision, and he also saw that the LTT had developed aeroplanes, two bombing incidents. The Colombo airport was bombed by an LTT aeroplane. And then they were developing submarines with the help of certain foreign powers and illegal markets in Afghanistan. So therefore, he thought that now the country was going to become a mess. And he took a decision. There were a lot of Sri Lankan soldiers who died, but he ended the matter completely. So he's a decisive man. That is what I think India should look. Here's a man we can do business with. He promises something, he does it. And he's not waffling, he's not easily manageable by other people or other countries too.
All right, Dr. Subramanian Swamy, appreciate very much joining us on the broadcast and helping our viewers with those perspectives there.